Hey guys, Steve McCrae here, Freedom Chef, Resolute TV. We're having a little bit of a break, as you've probably caught on to. I'm in the middle of an election. It's all kind of good fun, but here's what we've done for you. My little team, me, Dia and Co, have put together a couple of little interview videos, some full-length videos for you to have a couple of specials to hold you up for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then we look forward to kicking off again. We've got a great guest list lined up, some of our old favourites, and to kick off our super specials list, Stephen Wells, our Wrongthing King, banned author from Amazon, climate change denial, all-round top bloke, good stuff, legend. He and I had a brilliant discussion about some of the COVID lockdowns and stuff like that, which is obviously a pretty hot topic. So tune in now and watch me and Stephen get really riled up about just how dodgy some of this stuff seems to be. Thanks guys, jump on. So guys, Resolute TV, we got Stephen Wells back. Mate, I'm not even gonna waste time with big bullshit intros. How about the hypocrisy on this whole shit show, mate? This is epic.
It's crazy, but before we start, we really need to get some tinfoil around our heads because we've got to talk some conspiracies today.
Haven't we just? I got up this morning.
Now that I've protected myself, now we can talk more freely.
I'm just at the point where I figure they've probably got a chip in my brain I don't even know about, these psychos. Mate, I got up this morning and I've checked out the news. So look, I don't know your take on the George Floyd thing. As far as I'm concerned, no law enforcement ever has the right to take the life of another human being. You could almost argue in the pedophiles and the murder cases, you could almost justify the death penalty, but even then I still go, they fuck so much up. What's the chances that they've, got it wrong and DNA or something, down the track proves that poor bastard was innocent, which has happened an awful lot. So apparently this guy's writing bad checks or something, which, considering money's fraudulent anyway, from what I've been learning over the last 10 to 12 weeks, I always had a bit of an idea. But so he's writing bad checks. 4 coppers built piss out of him, and all the video shows he's not resisting arrest, certainly not to the degree that they made out. This Derek Chauvin, whatever his name is, this copper is obviously a world-class dickhead. Essentially kills the bloke. So it's murder as far as I'm concerned. I reckon you'd agree. He's killed the bloke. The coppers went into defense mode first. And then after they've gone into defense mode and the whole America's had a meltdown, every black fella, half a dozen white blokes, however, whatever, two tenths, the whole country's gone fucking mental. Probably rightfully so, I would argue. And then they decide, oh shit, we better charge this bloke because this is getting out of hand, and then it's gone into absolute meltdown. So what's your take on the whole shit show, mate?
Well, I've got. I can't believe we're still having feedback issues here. Let me just push that away. This must be more interference from the powers that be that we're still having feedback, even after I've got my cyborg gear on. Look, there are
flagged by now for having wrong opinions.
There are more conspiracy theories going out around this death than there are for 9/11 and JFK combined at the moment. There are reports of the whole thing being staged. There is lots of people pointing out the Freemason ties of both the victim and also the people in power. And as far as conspiracies go, there are lots of things to make people question what's going on. Before, without going too deep into the more extreme ones with crisis actors and stuff that you hear about, which at this point, who knows what to believe anymore, because there is so many suspicious things about this event. There is pictures of when the paramedics turn up, that the guy who lifts the guy into the stretcher dressed as a paramedic, he's got a bulletproof vest on. What's a paramedic doing with a bulletproof vest on? Where was the CPR? on site before they've just lifted him up and dumped him on the stretcher? Did they even check that he was dead before they, there are all these kind of questions going on about this sort of thing. And the reason that these questions going on, whether they've got, whether they're real or not, or whether the people are just, letting their imaginations get away with them, isn't really the point, because what is undoubtedly true is that the forces of darkness, I will call them the forces of darkness, have jumped on this event and made it into a very, very conveniently timed worldwide outrage event. And all of the timing of it, when COVID-19 was, basically being exposed as a complete and utter scam. You've got all these new reports coming out. There's one from Germany that was leaked to leaked out, which went to the German government, which says that the whole thing isn't a crisis after all. There's multiple doctors coming out and saying, look, this is all a farce. There's all of the exposing of the fake numbers. It was backlash against the powers that be. And then at the same time, Hillary Clinton is being investigated at the moment, which you don't hear on the news. There is, a whole lot of indictments going on, which you're not hearing on the news. And all of a sudden, in these Democrat-controlled states where they've been harping on about, you can't go outside, we will arrest you if you open your business, doing everything they can to literally destroy civilization in their areas. And all of a sudden, this happens. And what is the response of the Democratic people is, oh yeah, we support the rioters. We're withdrawing the police. We're all going to say sorry now. And no, we won't go and police the protesters. We won't try and stop them. We won't interfere whilst they riot. And then there's more things coming out. So for example, there's pallets of bricks mysteriously turning up in strategic places where there's no construction, where Antifa are just walking along, and there's pictures of police wrecking their own cars.
Yeah, right. I haven't seen the ones of the coppers wrecking their own cars. I've seen a few bricks being thrown, but
yeah, there's police of wrecking their own cars. There's other ones of police with bricks in a big ute turning up somewhere. And what are the police doing with a bunch of bricks? Yeah. Setting them up. And then there's other ones of people with earpieces in the so-called protesters with handcuffs in their back pocket being filmed. And there's undercover, there is all kinds of shady shit going on.
Yeah.
And so the tinfoil hat people are coming out and they're saying, well, this is going on. Why is it going on? And how on earth are we getting Daniel Andrews in Australia, who last week, when we were protesting lockdowns and saying, you're destroying our businesses, you're destroying our livelihoods, arresting people.
Well, our good mate Thanos from the Paradigm Shift episode we did the other day. But also, don't forget, it's not just Dan Andrews, mate. Vera Jicklin, who's supposed to be a conservative in New South Wales, she's come out and supported the same shit. And they locked up Renee Altacrudi the other week with her son and all that sort of shit in Sydney for peacefully wandering around the streets. And now all of a sudden
it's okay to protest and assemble en masse.
And I don't want to sound like a complete asshole here, but I kind of hope a whole bunch of COVID shit runs through everybody, purely just to go, okay, well, maybe they weren't fucking complete lying bastards and they've just gone soft. The alternative is they're lying. It's a conspiracy. It's all dishonest, the whole lot. And I've never been shy about saying both sides of parliament, certainly in this country, and I've got no doubt that the Republicans and Democrats in America are just as shonky. Please tell me how in the wide world, mate, they think that this is acceptable. I know people who have been borderline suicidal, nearly losing their businesses for the last, few months while don't leave the house, we'll arrest you. You eat a fucking sausage roll in a park bench and we catch you, we're going to lock you up and we're going to fine you $1 trillion or whatever bullshit arbitrary number they pull out of their rectum. Now it's okay, apparently, for 50,000 people to wander around Melbourne upset about the whole Black Lives Matter thing. And I've got black friends and data, all that bullshit. I don't care. Our leaders are lying to us. This is dodgy as fuck.
Absolutely. And it's, you know, and look at the type of protests that they're actually endorsing, these so-called leaders of ours. They're endorsing groups that in America, you know, Antifa has just been declared a terrorist organization by Trump, and rightly so. They are, you know, in America, these pallets of bricks. I mean, think about a pallet of bricks turning up in the middle of a city, being dumped on the street. What would happen normally if a pallet of bricks is dumped randomly on a street? The first thing that happens is the police turn up, the council turn up. Everybody says, "Who owns these bricks? We need to find out. We need to find
bricks. Why are they here?
Why are they here? We need to find these people and find them and make sure they remove these bricks, and we'll come down the full force of the law." You think how petty councils are. How petty councils are, and you know, don't think it's any different in America. You can't just turn up and dump a shitload of bricks somewhere and without proper authorization. So the authorities have to know that these bricks have been put there illegally, or they had to put them there themselves because they knew and wanted and were deliberately wanting riots to go off for whatever agenda they're trying to push. And yet here over in Australia, the only protests that are allowed are from people who have got a track record of smashing shops, burning Target stores, inspiring looters, and, you know, turning up in black garb, and you know, the only masks that they're wearing are not for COVID, I can promise you that. But organized terrorism, organized mass destruction of people's livelihoods, and that's okay. That's okay. You know, how can this be?
I take great issue with the whole mask thing. Right now, as a bogan Aussie, I spent a lot of years as a kid and when I was much younger trying to work out the burqa. Why are they allowed to wear a mask? And those bastards, they shouldn't be allowed to do that. And as I've developed and learned more, I go, well, hang on. Antifa shouldn't be allowed to wear a mask. Bank robbers shouldn't be allowed to fucking wear a mask. Why are you people determined to hide your face? It's not about what religion, race, or motivation. Why are you so doing something so shady that you've got to hide your identity? What are you scared of? Now, people like you and me come out here and people go, "You guys are a bit mad." I have a suspicion the same people who are calling us a bit mad are wearing masks and running around in there, you know, running around when they've got half a shot, you know, throwing shots and smashing buildings. At least anybody knows, you or I, where we stand. And I'll go, "No, bullshit. I'll say that. And if it hurts your feelings, too bad. I'm not going to throw a brick at your house while wearing a mask and then sneak off, go back home to mummy and go, 'Mummy, I've been anti-fearing all day. Make me a sandwich.'" Like, fuck off. I'm so irate by this whole thing, mate. Like, I've been calling out politicians for being shady as shit for as long as I can remember. I've been calling out, you know, if you're going to say anything publicly, say it publicly. If you've got something to say, stand by it. And if you say something that you're a little bit regretful of, I have no problem with you making a retraction. Say, "Look, I kind of ran my mouth. It was a bit out of order." Whatever, that's fine. But this stuff here just is so fucking insidious because they don't stand by it. Otherwise, you wouldn't need a mask. You don't need a mask unless you're trying to hide your identity. You don't hide. I'm Stephen Wells. I question climate change and I question COVID-19. I'm Dean McCrae. I fight for freedom, liberty, and I couldn't give a monkey's uncle what these dodgy politicians do as long as they get the hell out of people's lives, because I don't trust them. This is the reason I don't trust them. And anybody who's not seeing that by this hypocrisy is just not paying any attention at all.
Yeah, I mean, look at like London. I mean, what the hell has London got to do with a police officer in the United States? You know, and it was just a white man. There's a black guy was part of the format.
And an Asian bloke.
There's an Asian guy. Yeah. So you've got a mixed race police force, basically, you know, going overboard. And it's not the first time. You've got, I think, 2016, 2017, there's a white guy who is killed in exactly the same manner.
Oh, don't forget the white Australian girl that was shot to death in America 2 years ago, whatever. Nobody went to this sort of manic bullshit. Now,
in the same place.
Dead set against our authorities These monkeys, you know, these hired government thugs. Are you right there? Sorry, this dog. He's pissed off. He's pissed off, mate. He's like, oh, can you see this shit? I've had enough. He's cranky. I don't blame him, mate. I am too. But you know, like, none of these riots happened in the same manner. And as far as I'm concerned, all 4 of those officers should be locked up for murder, exactly as you or I would be if we killed a bloke on the street. I don't give a fuck how many bad checks he was bouncing. I really don't care. I don't even care if he was selling heroin on the streets. You do not kill a man based on that. You go, right, we're here to stop you from doing this. Okay, you know, there's the war on drugs is a whole another topic. But as an argument, you go, I don't care what you're doing. You don't have the right to kill this human being. But, you know, like, you can sort of, when there's a big shootout, you know, you go, oh, fuck, fair enough. This guy was handcuffed, face down. He wasn't resisting arrest, and how was he going to beat 4 guys with guns anyway? So we've killed old mate, righto, bang, look at that. And then they wanted to debate whether or not that was a problem. And they let him film it, which that seems a bit strange myself. If you're doing some real shady shit, normally you'd go, hey, turn that camera off, da-da-da-da-da. I've had occasions where people have said, you know, officers have said to me, you know, you can't record this. And I've gone, you know, I can. Yeah, all right, fair enough. So, and they behave themselves a little bit. These guys waving at the camera. Oh, look what I'm doing to this bloke. Mate, fucking.
Look what I'm doing to this bloke. Is that your dog, or is that the feedback?
No, that's not good feedback. He's quiet now for a second.
I don't know why we're still getting feedback. Might have to take these off.
I'm sure government's listening in. They're kind of getting a bit pissed off about you and I challenging them publicly without masks.
Yeah, I mean, I've taken my tinfoil hat off now, but oh man, I mean, it's just the coordination of it. I mean, either these Antifa people are just expecting, you know, are lying in wait, ready for anything to jump on board, or, you know, I can't rule this possibility out, that they knew in advance that this was going to happen, or something like it, because it takes time to organize people to come in from outside a state en masse and start riots and have bricks put down. So, you know, and it takes time to organize protests. You know, it's very, very fishy that within days we have got a so-called worldwide movement, and the sheep are just turning up en masse. You know, how long did it take?
The same sheep here 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, were calling you and I mad, and they were. I know I was getting heaps of it. How can you be against the lockdowns? It's for your own safety. What the fuck is this? And I'm all for protesting. I've been very supportive of Thanos protesting, Renee protesting, your protest. Anybody, I haven't bothered to protest here because where I am, there's such a small population. It's not even, you know, I could go out and protest and there'd be nobody around anyway. But I'm all for people protesting. Stick it to the government every opportunity you get. But how quickly they've changed their tune. We're all going to die of COVID. Don't leave the house, so you want old people to die.
And it's not just that.
By police now, we've got a riot. Don't stay in your homes anymore. Go and burn the city. Hang on a minute. You're going to get COVID, or you're not going to get COVID, or does the mask save you from COVID? Is that?
The thing is that they're not just organizing protests. They're you know, like if we say something even you know, remotely that can be construed and twisted in a way, we get banned from social media in an instant. Now, Antifa have had, you know, mass widespread calls out there to go into white suburbs and smash stuff up, like literally incitement of violence, no ifs or buts, you know, no ambiguous statements, actual calls for violence, and turn up and smash things is basically what the message has been. Not turn up and peacefully protest, not turn up and be cautious about not provoking police, but go out and deliberately destroy this system, destroy this country, whichever country it's in.
And in any Western country, the argument's been that that's the target.
And not only do they get, a free pass, they're not arrested, they're not taken down off social media, they're promoted and they're sympathized with by these politicians, which makes you ask, how many of these politicians are in on it?
There is both sides of politics are endorsing ever so politically correctly. Oh, well, we don't really endorse it, but we've got to allow them to protest. It's a very serious, urgent matter. So was fucking COVID not leaving your house 3 weeks ago, despite your businesses going under.
Last week, I mean, I literally went from I went to the lockdown protest on the Saturday last week, and we were doing everything we could to not antagonize the police. As soon as the first move on orders came, everybody moved on, and we ended up just walking around the whole of Perth to try and avoid being arrested. And the police still came in and randomly arrested people just for walking in Kings Park. And then a few days later, Black Lives Matters were right in the heart of the CBD in the shopping center area, where when we were walking down there trying to avoid getting, all bunched up so the police would have an excuse to arrest us, the police themselves turned up and blocked off the streets to the shopping center and to the train station so that people couldn't walk down that way. We were physically prohibited from going down there. And then a couple of days later, all of a sudden, I'm seeing these Black Lives Matters protests, not only in the area, but not being asked to move on. They had their microphones, they had speakers set up. It was allowed. It was like there wasn't even a police officer in sight. These are the guys, the Black Lives Matters protesters, who have a history of getting violent and smashing stuff up, and thankfully they didn't on that day.
Well,
but
thankfully,
they were, but they were, but elsewhere, Black Lives Matter and Antifa, they're renowned for going around and smashing up shops, and they were given a free pass, despite the fact that a couple of days before we were all told you are breaching COVID regulations. And they were all there, not only walking around and social distancing, but gathering in a big group. And, it's just nuts. And here's another thing. Have you seen the fact that the autopsy report for George Floyd now says...
I saw a couple of, and some stuff comes across your Facebook or your news feed, and you try and, I'm trying to campaign, work for a living, do all these things that I try to do. Work on Resolute TV, and I'm trying to keep up with current events. And they've tried to say he's got COVID-19. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's they've done in the autopsy. They've tested him for COVID-19 along with everything else, and lo and behold, as well as having fentanyl and methamphetamines in his body, he also was diagnosed with having COVID. So this is the crazy thing, right? According to the CDC guidelines, he has to be diagnosed. He has to be counted as a COVID death now. So he has to be added to the statistics of people who have died with COVID, because the guidelines basically explicitly say that if you have COVID, even if you died of something else, that needs to be recorded in the official statistics of people who have died with COVID-19. So he is a person who has died with COVID-19. He obviously hasn't died from it, but he's another COVID death.
I read an article the other day. Did you know that's also what got JFK, Princess Diana, Tupac Shakur, and Elvis? All of them died of COVID.
Absolutely, yeah. That's...
It's all getting so fucking farcical, mate. I sit there and I go, and I don't know, look, I'm a natural born, there's a layer of natural rebel in me, and people have always said, mate, you're over the top, the government's not that bad, they're here to look after us. I don't know. Surely some of this has got to come good. Bushfires happen, ScoMo goes on holidays and everybody goes, he's a bastard. Now COVID comes in and he's the best leader ever since sliced bread, and then that starts to fall apart and the economy's tanked. Well, no shit, that was going to happen. Oh, now he's a bastard again. He's the worst Prime Minister ever, and this stupid $25,000 grants he's going to give out to rich people's even dumber. I agree. And now we're going to let all the people that have been locked in cages for 3 months, battery hens, go out and protest. It's perfectly okay and it's safe, but fuck, what do we do next? They're all mad. The whole thing is mad. We can't keep signing up to this shit. I can't. I know I'm in the middle of a very, very legitimate or government-sponsored legitimate election at the moment. So I don't know how much backlash I'll get for coming out and making a couple of these videos that I've got lined up for the next couple of days. But I don't really care. These people are either going to fall in line and go, you know what, he's actually one of the most sensible pricks we've seen because he's telling the truth, right, wrong, or indifferent, or they're going to laugh me out of the building, and I'll just go, well, you know what, I'm being honest. I can't deal with you. You people are mad. I can't save them from themselves if they're going to keep buying bullshit.
You've got nothing to lose. Just a few more crazy things that have happened in the riots. Okay, so one TV station, they put up, I can't remember which city it is. They put up on the news a picture of the city basically in flames because of riots. Okay, and then it turns out that the footage is from World War Z, from a movie.
Fucking hell. I saw that movie. I enjoyed it. I mean, I find all those zombie movies to be a bit, you know, look, let's be fair, they might as well be documentaries. They're pretty close. Only variants on the zombies there are these ones we've got now who are following their little phones around looking confused and lost and not asking any damn questions.
Well, I mean, this is how bad it's got that an official news station can literally grab some movie footage and say this is, and bump it up there and say this is what's happening in whatever it was, Philadelphia or Baltimore or whatever city it was, you know, the riots. And
we've had smart asses say to us that the quality of Resolute TV is not high enough. It's honest and it's real. You know, it's real.
I think you should probably you know, start putting a bit of Game of Thrones in, you know, as a documentary. And you know.
I don't know how to do it. I'll get Dia or somebody to superimpose a dragon flying through every so often. And
I'm just waiting for a dragon to appear on CNN. You know, it's
fucking ludicrous. But there was actually a lot of talk about the bushfires and stuff as well. You know, they're showing all this footage, and at that time, an awful lot of, you know, statements and comments and stuff went around about certain footage they were using. Well, no, that was a Brazilian rainforest 5 years ago, or that was, you know, this 2 years ago, whatever it was. So it's the same bullshit, and everyone's seen the photos of, you know, where the CNN guys wear, or I presume it's CNN, NBC, whichever mob, and you got some bloke in a full hazmat suit, you know, looking the part, and the guy standing behind the cameras in shorts and thongs, you know, like no problem at all. Let's record this and make it look good. It's all bullshit. We live in fairyland, guys. If I want to watch fantasy, do you know what I'll do? I'll click on Netflix and I'll go into the sci-fi fantasy or whatever shit you want to watch and watch it. No problem. That's where you get your entertainment. This is supposed to be real life. This is the fucking news. And this is the sort of shit they come out with. Mate, there's no credibility in any of it anymore. And I'm not a journalist asshole. I don't even try to be. Just a teller of truth, as I see it, based on the facts that I can get my hands on, mate. Unbelievable.
And you can see why people, more and more people are starting to do this, you know. You can, because if mainstream media news is so blatantly dishonest that they will take literally footage from a Hollywood movie and present it as real, then what else can you trust? Is Floyd really dead? You know, you literally get to that point of suspicion where you don't even trust that you've seen an actual murder on TV because they've faked so much else. You just don't know anymore. You don't know if the guy is sitting somewhere in the Bahamas with the guy who supposedly killed him, sipping pina coladas for the rest of his life. You just don't know.
And good luck to it, and good luck to him if he is. To be fair, if at this stage, if they said we're going to give you an island, take a few people you like, it's going to be big enough for you to grow whatever you need. Can you fuck off? We're tired of listening to your shit, or we're tired of you fighting us. You know what? Yeah, right. I'm out. I'm quite happy. I don't even know if I want to stand up for the average citizen anymore because they're not paying attention.
Yeah. Okay, George Soros, me and Dean, we're ready for the readies. Come on, we'll fake our own death.
Hey, come on, George, hook us up.
Yeah. Do I kill you? Do I kill you, Dean, or do you kill me on camera? It's got to be a murder suicide.
We've got to make it exciting. We're gonna need to find somebody of an ethnic race. Oh no, we got Dia. She's a Mexican. We can do that.
Oh, so we can pretend to kill Dia, can't we?
If we kill Dia, we'll be sweet, yeah. Because as a Mexican, we're obviously evil, racist bastards. I'm
an evil white man. I'm obviously male privilege. So
British, man,
male
British.
old white male privilege. I have to be a murderer. I expect to see my mug on CNN, and I expect some Reddies, George.
Yeah. Hook me up, you old fat psychopath.
And just for anybody watching, I'm not saying I believe that it was faked. I don't. But the point is, it gets so ludicrous. You get to the point where you just don't know anymore. Everything. You just don't know. You think, it still sounds crazy that there are people out there saying that, hey, this whole thing was staged and the guy isn't really dead, and all the really far, flat Earth lizard people. You get to that, but Jesus, man, it gets to the point where everything else goes on, and you just go, maybe they're not crazy. I'll consider it. It can't be any crazier than discovering that the NBC or CNN have suddenly put a movie on and passed it off as real. It can't be any more crazy than bricks turning up out of the blue and being conveniently there for Antifa to come along. It can't be any crazier than seeing actual police officers in uniform standing by an Antifa person and telling them which buildings to spray. Do you remember that? Do you remember that scene out of Monty Python's Life of Brian where John Cleese catches Graham Chapman trying to put some graffiti on the wall, and he tells him he spelt it wrong. I want you to write it out 50 times.
Mate, it's just fucking mental. I've got the TV's on here to the side. I've got a reasonable sized TV, and the headline: protest exemptions. And we've got a combination of people united standing for justice, ending police brutality. Damn right, no violence, end police brutality, end fucking all violence. Other than cage fighting or something that's a legitimate sport. 2020, there shouldn't be people committing any sort of violence against another. And I'm not a pacifist, I'm not praying in the garden or anything like that, but don't commit violence. And then in the same vein of this photo, you've got photos of scientists and people, like in all the garb. What do you call that? Temperature testing and all this bullshit. And you just go, you people are full of it. Absolutely full of it, mate. I'm running out of words on how I just, I've been violated. You've been violated. We've all been violated. This is bullshit.
On that note, mate, we should probably let your other guest talk for a while.
Oh no, I'm releasing this as a special, mate. I'm just going to let this whole thing go out. Fuck it.
This is the 10-hour special, is it?
10 hours. I mean, if you want to do 10 hours, then I'll tell you what. Look, as you know, and I've seen you get pretty wild on a lot of things, and you're right, fucking 100% rightfully so. That's why I've always loved having you on these programs, and I've loved talking to you before that and after that, and found value in the fact that you're always questioning. Just don't believe it just because it is. It doesn't mean you're saying that didn't happen, but you are saying it needs to be questioned and investigated more. And the whole thing's just unstuck, mate. It's just unhinged. None of this stuff adds up as logical, practical, sensible. Our mates, Vanos and Renee, when I say our mates, the first time we both met them was sort of on the internet on the first episode of the Paradigm Shift we did the other day, which was really cool and seems to be going all right. We're getting a few views. People seem to be liking it. A couple of people are calling us all mad. Well, that's fine. But here, it was only weeks ago, these people were locked up for protesting, for being outside, peacefully protesting. Now here, this weekend, a couple of weeks later, after they were arrested for doing it, we've got government publicly on TV saying, it's all right, don't worry.
Yeah, and you also got to contrast like Renee, who is basically walking pretty much by herself with her kid.
Yeah.
To thousands of people all crammed together and chanting and screaming and baying like, bloodhounds, it's going to be all like that,
Yep.
Black
Yep.
Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. And they're all going to be like, the spit will be flying out of their mouths and they'll be breathing down the noses of others. There'll be, 10,000.
All the COVID bullshit that was used as an excuse is they've either got to go, look, fuck, it was all bullshit. Sorry, guys, we had you, and just let these people go nuts and do whatever you like, or don't let them go nuts. Lock them all down like they did to everybody else, including a guy riding a bike in a national park because he was going to make everybody sick. A bloke fishing alone in a boat out in the middle of nowhere. Like,
like Daniel Andrews says, like you can't go and play golf, a round of golf by yourself. But you can.
But you're going to gather 50,000 people, and I don't care what their cause is. I'm all for protesting what you believe in. All for it.
There is another thing already which we have to consider as well with what's going to happen with this, is because already, like literally within a day of like some mass protests happening, you get some more fake news out, which is saying that 40,000 people have been new cases of COVID have been diagnosed since the protests.
Oh, so does that come out of it?
So you're getting that fake news as well. Now, again, you've got to take a step back and realize that.
How many protesters are they're going protesting all day and then they're calling in for a test? Is that what they're doing?
Well, this is the thing, how long does it, have all of these protesters suddenly gone for a test? And more importantly, isn't it supposed to take 2 weeks for the incubation period?
14 days from what I heard.
So how do we go from protests on one day to all of these new cases on the next day and then trying to blame the protesters when it's supposed to take 2 weeks to incubate before any signs show and no one's been tested, and the tests take up to 2 weeks to come back, and that's why you've got to be locked down. But you can see the way they're trying to spin it already. The protests are going to come up. And I've said a lot of the things, about this COVID thing is that they're just making stuff up. That people aren't actually sick with this virus. A lot of it is people not sick with this virus who powers that be have just said, these are cases. This person has died with it. Yeah, okay, so he had stage 4 lung cancer. Doesn't matter. He was a COVID victim. All of this kind of stuff. So I wonder because I've already, we've talked about the Imperial College of London lots of times and how the lockdowns are supposed to be staggered according to the modelling. We have full lockdown, round about June, the lockdowns get eased. We have about a month of some kind of freedom, and then they come in again. So is all of this just an excuse to manufacture the numbers again so that it can lock us down again? Because that's definitely in the plan. That's definitely in the modelling of what governments are supposed to be doing.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, if they allow all these protests, and when I say they allow, it pisses me off that we're even having this discussion. If they're going to endorse these protests, you can bet your ass they better lock me up next time they try to lock everyone down and I come out going, bullshit, I'm not having it. Because that's
but this is the excuse that they're probably going to use. Oh, yes, these protests happened, but because of these protests happened, we've now got new cases of COVID and we need to lock everybody down again. Sorry, guys, it was important to protest, but the side effects of this protest is everyone's got COVID again, and bang, there's your excuse. So whether that happens or not, I don't know, but all I do know is that is what the official modelling is telling governments to do. Yeah. The official modelling is telling governments that we need to open up society again and then lock it down again. That is what the Imperial College of London has been saying to governments, and so far governments have followed this stuff from Neil Ferguson to the letter. They have followed it to the letter so far. So, it makes me very, very...
Unlike banging a married woman, they're just fucking the whole country in every country.
Yeah, and you've got to ask how many of them are dupes who are doing this just because they're cowards and they're worried about the election, and how many of them are in on it? How many of them are, anarchist, communist, globalists who deliberately have, you've got the literature out there, lots of people in the UN and others saying we need to tear down capitalism before we can build our utopia. So how many of them are deliberately doing that? And how many of them are just dupes along the way? But they're in the Labour Party, they're in the Liberal Party, they're in the Greens Party, they're in every major party. They've been infiltrated all the way through. You only have to look at Malcolm Turnbull and all of his entourage, Julia Bishop, Christopher Fine, to see that they're not liberals. They're globalists.
Half this election I'm involved in, I'm trying to justify what the difference is between me as a libertarian. And I'd like to think I'm pretty pure. I'm not going to have arguments with people over the more pure libertarians, but I like to think I'm pretty consistent in my philosophies. And they go, well, you're just another liberal. And I'm going, no, I have fucking zero in common with 80% of the Liberal Party. There's probably 20% there holding on for dear life to what once mattered. The rest of them, they're gone. I can't save them off the range. Sorry, I've got nothing in common with, and 80% is an arbitrary number. It could be far less that I have anything in common with. But then in saying that, I've probably got 20% that I can see some value in on the Labor Party as well. They go, oh, well, we think this is good. Well, you know what? That's actually got a little bit of merit because I've got enough critical thinking to go, oh, well, that's actually a very reasonable argument you've just put forward. But I don't buy any of their bullshit. Liberal, Labor, Greens, Nats, they're all done. What used to be is done. Left and right is done. The only thing that's going to be left by the end this is all done is going to be totalitarians, happy slaves, and there will be a certain amount of humans that are going to be quite happy to be fucking little worker drone slaves and do as they're told and accept their little pittance given out by the powers that be. And then there's going to be those of us who are determined to continue to fighting for freedoms and liberties and everybody being able to enjoy the life the way they should do without these psychos interfering. That's where I see it going. We're going to go from a left-right paradigm to a totalitarian, happy slaves, and then all the rest of us will be considered maniacs because we'll want our own freedoms and liberties, and we don't want to be, infringed upon for, well, anything. Could be wrong, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I think what I'm seeing in the US at the moment, and I think probably more needs to be happen here, is, outside of the major Democrat-run cities, there are basically, US patriots who are getting together in communities, and when they hear that Antifa are coming, there's a neighborhood watch thing there, and they're all armed. And when the bands turn up, they go, "Please turn around,
come on in, guys, and
turn around and go away because you're not going to come in here and wreck up our community." And I've been hearing, people who are saying that the establishment isn't going to stop. Yeah. That it's not going to stop. And that civil war is coming to America, and we're on the brink of it now, of actual civil war coming to America. And all it's going to take to really spark it off is for one of these Antifa vans to turn up in a white suburb, where there's conservative white men with their guns protecting their families and their businesses. And then it's going to be one of these Antifa people is going to get shot sooner or later. They're going to get shot. They're going to get killed. And then the government is going to come in and try and arrest the people in that community. And when that happens, we'll see just how effective government actually is in America.
Well, because, and we'll see how important it is for free, independent, responsible citizens to be armed.
Because
I think the worst thing Australians ever did was panicked and allowed the Liberal government to take everybody's guns. And I'm not even a big time shooter or anything like that. I don't go shooting. I'm not gun mad. I don't sit here and go, I want to own all the guns. The more of this shit happens, the more I'm thinking, I should be buying guns, lots of guns, because it's going to get wild. And we've got the same forces over here playing bullshit as they've got over there, mate. And it's
over here in Australia. I mean, what we obviously can't, form, armed militias. But what we can do is start going out and start talking to our neighbours again, and start, building up our community, start going out and meeting the people who live around us and finding people who have similar views to us, rather than just meeting on the internet the whole time. We really need to start forming our own neighbourhood watches again, and start being prepared to look after our own communities again, without relying on the government and the councils and everything to make everything great for us. We really need to start to get back that sense of individual responsibility and working with other individuals to form communities again, because that's the answer. Obviously you're trying to get elected, and that's important too, but we know how difficult and how much of an uphill battle that is. So in between all of these elections, what we need to be doing is getting out and meeting people face to face and finding people who like minds and start forming together.
I just hope my running as a candidate, I don't do it because I think I'm going to be elected. I'm not that deluded. The big party machines make it awfully difficult. If you check sports bet at the moment, you've got Liberal, you've got Labor. I think Labor's, favoured to win, and any other party is just clumped together. So they're not even acknowledging the other 8 candidates that have currently put their hand up for this. And none of the media wants to talk to anybody unless you're the chick from Labor or the chick from Liberal, who, funnily enough, I don't think I've ever seen either of them on camera without one of the male leaderships people in the group. So yesterday, I don't know if you saw the announcement with all the bullshit 25 grand handouts. Fiona Cotvoice, who's the Liberal Party candidate, she rocks up to do the big introduction. Behind her, she's got ScoMo, Jim Molan, I can't remember, 2 or 3 other reasonably well-known monkeys from the Liberal Party. And it's like, hang on a minute, I thought you were a strong independent woman. I'm starting to get really concerned here, because I would have just given her the job. You know what I mean? If this was the Lib Dems, who I'm sort of affiliated with, and we've run a female candidate, I'm not going to follow her around all day sort of holding a hand. Want to jump in the ring of politics, darling? Go and bash on. I mean, happy to support you, but why? And the Labor Party chicks might have been driving all over the electorate with Anthony Albanese, who probably tangibly has far better things or more important things to do with his time than run around holding hands with some woman who wants to lead the area. I'm happy for women to lead the area, but why do you need him to hold your hand? Seems a bit, you know what I mean? Go and run the electorate, darling. Go and show us what you're made of. You don't need that guy. He's a fucking donkey anyway. But, the same goes for ScoMo. But, we need to, look, I'm here to introduce her and give her credibility. Why? Hasn't she got enough credibility on her own?
Obviously not.
Well, I'd like to think they do, because they're willing to put their hands up. And I don't want to berate people who put their hands up, because it's a bullshit gig. And you know what I mean? You're at the mercy of haters and, whatever. But I'm only hoping to get enough media attention type thing on the freedom and liberty issue. I just want people to realise these people are doing shaded shit every day, stealing your freedoms, costing you a fortune, and now they're supporting people going out and protesting, when here a week ago, people were getting locked up for protesting. The hypocrisy, guys. Everybody deserves their fucking life back. And that's my only role in this, really, They're not going to put me in Parliament House. They'd be mad. The first thing I'd do is I'd shut it down, sack everybody, and reboot, Don't need any of you. You people are all useful idiots. Go home.
So what have you remembered what your odds are? What are the odds for the minor parties?
$34, mate. It's paying for anybody from any other minor party.
That's not bad. 34 to 1.
Yeah, look, I'm going to throw a 50 on and just say, you never know. Stephen Bradbury got a gold medal at the Olympics. And I think the Labor Party chick, she's on, somebody who called me a sexist bastard for calling her a chick, and it's like, sort your life out, dummies. But I think she's paying $1.40 or something, and I think the Liberal Party, Sheila, she's on $2 something. And for the record, they seem nice enough. I don't know them, you know what I mean? Well, whatever. Well, good, fair play to you. But yeah, it's a funny little show, mate. Like, is it about principle? Is it about priority? Now the Nats are running. Well, hang on a minute. You've already gone through 3 candidates as we're going to run. So you're just clearly running. You're clearly just running for the funding or whatever. You've got no principles left. There's no principles in any of these people left. Certainly in the big parties. Just run for the sake of running. Well, we're running a candidate because there's funding. We're running a candidate because, well, let's be fair, it's the only election on at the moment, so everybody's watching it who's politically inclined.
That's one thing I would change immediately, is the fact that that there's a perpetuation of support by public funding if you get enough votes. That needs to end, because you are the major. How these major parties, they're doing very little fundraising of their own these days. They've either got locked in with the unions on the Labour side, or they've got locked in with some big business on the other side. But the rest of it is all public funding.
Yeah.
So we're all paying to keep these people in power, and this election, the next election will be funded by the public donations of this election. And that's just wrong. That just needs to end.
Mate, I agree with it all. And one of the first things I come out and said was, if I was to fall over the line first, I'd be more than happy to. I won't just take a 20% pay cut like I've been advocating. I will take the average salary of an Australian to do the job, because I'm not better than anybody else. I'm not different to anybody else. I'm just a guy who's navigating through life, trying to keep these bastards at bay, and it's a piss take. The whole thing's a piss take, and that's the worst part of it. And every Australian you talk to, I don't even care if they're Liberal or Labor, will tell you, the politicians, they're all bastards, and well, this one's all right. I like this one. They pat me on the ass in the way that I like to be patted on the ass, but they all will tell you, well, the system's broken. All these people are dodgy and da da da. I was like, stop fucking voting for them. It's pretty straightforward. If you're tired of being lied to, stop voting. Everybody just says, no, sorry, we're not supporting this shit. To me, I don't know. To me, it's straightforward. To you, it's probably more straightforward than the average lunatic. And they're all just they're just sheep, mate. We know we're going to be sent off to slaughter, but he's got a handful of grass or grain or whatever the case may be. So we better go over and eat the carrot right before he lops our head off.
I remember that. Oh God, this sound terrible. Do you remember that the Simpsons episode where there's an election between Bill Clinton and Bob Dole years and years ago in the 90s, and right. And basically they both get captured by aliens, Kanos and Kodos. I know the guys. And they basically take over the bodies of Clinton and Dole, and right at the last minute they get exposed as who they are, and they come out and they says, well, what are you going to do about it? I'm the Republican, he's the Democrat, and you're not going to vote for an independent. And Ross Perot throws his thing down, and so the last scene of it is they're all being all of the humanity is enslaved, and Marge says to Homer, look what's happened. And he says, don't blame me, I voted for Kodos.
Yeah, so business as usual. Isn't it funny how often those guys are pretty close to on the money? It's pretty scary sometimes.
Oh yeah. In terms of sorry, let me put my tinfoil hat back on before we talk about Simpsons conspiracies, because there's a whole you can go so far down the rabbit hole with conspiracy theories on the Simpsons, where they predictive programming of like Trump being running for president and stuff, and all these kind of things. So I just need to ensure that the mind control doesn't take me over again as I talk about that.
Unbelievable. Well, I'll tell you what, it's always a pleasure. We're going to run this as a special, I think, because fucking why not? We'll release it the next couple of days. It will be really interesting to see what goes on over the weekend. And again, not anti-protesting, not anti any race, colour or whatever. I am anti-violence and I am anti-government corruption, lying and bullshit. So anybody who gets a bit confused about my stance, that's where it is. And it is as simple as that.
Anti-hypocrisy.
Anti-hypocrisy all day long, mate.
Yeah.
Stephen Wells, always a delight. Pleasure to see you. Everyone try and pick up the climate Confessions of a Climate Change Denied. That's allowed on Amazon. And
no, sorry. Sorry. Yeah, just a quick thing on that. Yes, Confessions of a Climate Change Denied you can buy. One more bit of news is that the great coronavirus swindle. I managed to get around the automatic censors of Amazon by changing the title and every word inside the book. So it's on every mention of the word coronavirus and COVID, both in the title and in the text. I changed to the word censored just for a laugh, and then I uploaded it again.
And it allowed it.
And it allowed it. So you can now buy the Great Censored Swindle on Amazon, and it's the same.
The Great Censored Swindle on Amazon. You can buy the. I want a copy of the actual coronavirus swindle. Save me one. I'll send you some money for it. I want an actual original copy just in case it goes viral after all this bullshit. But guys, so jump on Amazon, check it out. Check out Stephen's Facebook, all that sort of stuff like that. And let's keep trying to hold these bastards to account the best we can, eh? Thanks, Stephen. Always a delight, mate.
Talk to you next week.
Sounds good.